So I've been asked the question to think about a time that I've made a mistake and how I recovered from that mistake. I can think of a couple of instances, but it seems like the t-shirt I'm wearing today is more fitting for this question. I don't make mistakes when playing the guitar. I just make spontaneous creative decisions. But actually that's not always totally true. But I can think of one time, and this was just recently during our CLEP Summer Program faculty concert, and I was filling in on a song with Mac, a song called The Driftin' Blues by Eric Clapton, and I played a little fill that meant to go something like this. Sliding into that, but I accidentally slid. So I just did an extra slide to cover that mistake. So those are some little tricks. So you make it seem like, I could have gone, oh no, I made a mistake, let me do that fill again. But no, so you do your best and you cover it and it makes it seem intentional. So one other instance that I can think of happened during when I was leading music for Mass, and we were doing the Mass of Creation, and somehow my mind had drifted and it was time to sing the Amen, and I accidentally played the intro for the Holy. And so how did I recover from that? Well, I think about my Jewish upbringing, where when we celebrated the Feast of Purim, we used to eat these triangle-shaped pastries called Hamantaschen that were stuffed with all sorts of goodies. Could be prunes, apricots, poppy seeds, and they were shaped like a triangle, which was significantly representative of a three-cornered hat that Haman wore in the story of the Bible of Queen Esther. So we ate these Hamantaschen. So anyway, using that, I accidentally started to play the intro to the Holy, and I caught myself. So it went something like this. Amen, amen. So I just started to sing holy, but when I caught myself, I went, ah, and just moved from a ho to a, oh, amen, oh, amen. So anyway, that's one that really stood out.
I think every guitarist has done this, and that's to start a song with the capo on the wrong fret. And I was starting the song and doing the intro for it, and it sounded fine, of course, because there was nobody else playing with me. But when everybody else came in, they were all of a sudden in the wrong key, and looked around and realized what had happened, and we just had to stop. And then I fixed my capo and we started again, and we all had a little chuckle, and it was fine. Mass went on.
First of all, making mistakes. At Liturgy, when you're doing live music, there is no way that we're going to experience any of the music that we do perfectly. That doesn't even exist musically. Music is not about perfection. There's no such thing. It's an art. So when mistakes occur, the key is not to focus or dwell on the mistake. It's to do your best to find a way to mask that mistake and not let it or allow it to become disruptive in the liturgy. The first thing that comes to mind with this question is there was a wedding that I was playing a while back, and I was doing it as a solo guitarist. There were parts that I was doing this for a friend. His daughter was getting married, and he asked me to provide the music. So I was doing, as a prelude, I was doing just a number of different solo guitar arrangements. And there are two arrangements that I have that are very similar in style. One is to the tune of Joyful, Joyful, We Adore Thee. The second one is Angels We Have Heard on High, or no, Hark the Herald Angels Sing. So this was a wedding that was happening in the middle of July, and I started playing what I thought was Joyful, Joyful, and ended up starting to play Hark the Herald Angels Sing. And when I realized it, I was already a couple of measures into the song, and there was not a whole lot I could do with it but to finish out the first half of it and then fade out quickly and come back in with Joyful, Joyful. And I was mortified when it happened because there wasn't a soul out there who wasn't kind of saying, what's going on? So I got done with that wedding, and the rest of it went just fine. And afterwards I went up to the father of the bride, and he said, was there a little rendition of Hark the Herald Angels Sing that we heard this afternoon? And I just apologized profusely, because yes, he did hear Hark the Herald Angels Sing. So that was a very embarrassing experience, one that I continue to carry with me and will certainly do so for the rest of my music ministry days.
I make mistakes all the time. I think that just comes as part of being a musician. We always try to perform at our best level, but sometimes that doesn't always work out that way. So yeah, I make mistakes pretty much every performance. I always go in with that ideal, this is going to be my perfect performance, and I very rarely achieve that, but it's always a great goal to strive for. That being said, I think part of being a musician is learning to cover up for our mistakes. Most of the time in our performance, the audience won't even know if we made a mistake unless we really give it away. So if you're performing whatever your instrument is and you make a mistake, always do your best to just let it go and don't let it show on your face. If you're a percussionist, don't make a grimace or something that would indicate that, oh, I just made a mistake somehow. Keep smiling, keep your head up, keep engaging the audience or the congregation, and most people won't even know if you made a mistake. So just keep doing what you're doing.
Well, I have the advantage of working in a community that is wholesome and as a group has a lovely sense of humor. So if I happen to start a wrong song, for example, and I realize that people are turning and looking at me with some level of confusion, I can just say stop, figure out what's going on, and say, well, let's try that again. And there will be some light and pleasant laughter from the assembly, and there will be knowing smiles from the choir and my instrumental ensemble, etc. That kind of thing is totally par for the course. So I just trust other people to have good intentions, my direction, regardless of what level of imperfection I offer up for their amusement.
Most of my mistakes involve capos, either left on accidentally or not placed correctly on the guitar neck. Usually, I realize within 2 measures something isn't right, and then immediately stop playing until I figured out why things don't sound as they should. Once I recognize it is my error that has caused the problem, I fix the capo placement and resume playing at the next chorus or verse as appropriate. Trying to make mistakes as invisible is a skill learned through much experience, and I have found that playing with other skilled musicians can be quite helpful in allowing me to correct problems as quickly and as unobtrusively as possible. One time, however, during the opening song for Mass, I began playing and singing in a very different key than our piano player, who was located on the other side of the chapel from where our ensemble was. The split between musicians obviously made communications among the group challenging during Mass. Within 3 measures of the song beginning, I immediately knew something wasn't right. The ensemble director was close to me and was able to see my music. I kept playing for another few measures because I just knew that I had the correct music. I quickly realized I was receiving the "stop playing" motion from our director, followed by the "why are you still playing" wide-eyed stare from our director, who then motioned for everyone in the ensemble to stop playing and singing. Everyone went silent. Our director apologized to the congregation for our mishap. I was told quietly to not play, and the song started again. I was very annoyed that I was asked to stop playing and tried not to let that bother me as I sang the song, as I knew I had the correct music. Unfortunately, that past week we had not had an ensemble rehearsal due to scheduling issues. We all thought everything would be fine, as the song chosen for that Mass entrance were well known to the ensemble and the church community. At the end of Mass, I asked our director why I had been told to stop playing and not the piano player. I was informed that the piano player was using a new accompanying book that had just arrived, and as we had not had a rehearsal, no one knew the piece of music had been updated and published in a new key. Because I did not have the updated version of the song, it was simpler for me to be told not to play than to communicate this issue with the piano player, who was much farther away. The director had correctly assumed the other 2 vocalists would not have an issue with the new key, and he was correct. I learned 2 valuable lessons from that experience. Not playing your instrument on every song is sometimes the correct decision, and if you are unable to have a rehearsal before liturgy, always at least check your introductions for accuracy.
A time I made a mistake. There are way too many. And of course, my mistakes are different than instrumentalists' mistakes. But mistakes are what everybody makes, right? So let's see. I have had my heel catch on carpeting and gone down with a full cibori of consecrated hosts. I had my heel catch on carpeting again. Guess I shouldn't wear heels. I'm going down the steps with a full cup of precious blood on my way to distribute, right in front of a video camera. Yep, they watch that back and forth a lot. I've said Colossians when I meant to say Corinthians. I have a list a mile long. And so recovery kind of depends on what we're talking about, right? When I said Colossians, I just went on. When you fall with an entire cup of precious blood, everybody noticed. And to be honest, they were more worried about me breaking my knees than they were about anything else. In that case, I also went on. I had to trust that the community understood. Someone else came with purificators and started cleaning up, and I just stepped forward. The host person took my hand, helped me stand up, and I just went forward with the blood of Christ. We're all human, and mistakes are normal. Recovery depends on context. But embarrassment, kind of normal. The more you make mistakes and own them, the less you're really embarrassed for any length of time. And I think mistakes remind us that we are human and not God. There's the story of the Amish quilt. There's always a mistake because God is God. And sometimes I think we're gifted with mistakes. So perfection isn't such a big deal. It's all about offering praise and thanks to God and doing the best we can. I'm ready for my next mistake. It'll be in a few minutes, I'm sure.